all know that the Cold War was between the United States of America and the United Soviet Socialist Republics. What happened from Europe's standpoint on the war? How did this affect Europe then and now?
As we know, World War II happened before the Cold War, a war fought between the Soviet Union, United States, United Kingdom, China, France, Canada, parts of Africa, Europe, and Oceania, versus Nazi Germany, Japan, Italy, parts of Asia, and Europe. Even though the USA and the USSR were on the same side, they didn't like each other very much.
One of the things that led to the Cold War was the Yalta Conference held in Crimea, Russia in 1945. It took place from the 4th to the 11th of February. This was a conference held between Winston Churchill, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Joseph Stalin. At this conference, they discussed the dividing of Germany. Germany, however, did not get a say in this, thus leading to the Big Three, dividing Germany into 4 parts.
We need to discuss what to do with Germany.
Yes, but what would you do with it?
We should split it up between us and France.
France?
Yes.
Why?
No real reason.
Well, okay.
Have you guys noticed that this table's made out of mahogany?
Was über mich? Warum darf ich nichts dazu sagen? Those fools think I want to use the modern democracy. Ha, no, I rule them and therefore they shall be under Soviet power.
That scoundrel.
Bloody weasel. How dare he?
Months later, the Potsdam Conference took place in Germany. The Big Three met up again to discuss problems throughout Europe.
What do we do with Japan?
You should make them pay for what they did to Pearl Harbor.
Why? That is only something the United States wants. What about the other countries? You people only think of what you want, not what you need.
Yes, considering what you did to Nagasaki and Hiroshima, you should help them out.
Well, we should at least make them sign a document to surrender to us. This way they will stop and think before they try to mess with the great and powerful United States of America.
Well, I suppose so.
I'm not going to sign that. We should also do something about Poland. They lost a lot of their land to Germany.
What? Why do you all of a sudden care about the Polish? It was you and Hitler who split them up by invading them in the first place. In fact, you even have Polish territory that you claim as your own, for Christ's sake. You even approved the plan of killing some of the 20,000 members of the upper class.
What? No. They gave that to us willingly, I assure you.
Yeah, right.
If you're talking about the Katyn massacre,
You really need to think about that. We can give Poland some of the land the USSR and Germany took from them. Poland can have that.
In April, the USA, UK, and France were sending supplies to their parts of German country, while the eastern parts, run by the USSR, were slowly withering away. Soon, Lieutenant General William H. Tunner asked the western part of Germany to send Easterners supplies. During this time, many of the planes crashed due to weather. Out of this event, a new policy emerged. It stated any aircraft that misses target is to continue back to base. This was to eliminate accidents and became very successful because he was able to keep both sides of Germany together.
The formation of NATO began when several Western countries came together to create a military alliance and defend against its enemies.
Hey, United Kingdom, USA,
What?
we should form a military alliance.
Well, okay, but what about the other nations? Why just us?
Hola! The Spanish will join you.
Italy too! I suppose that the Norwegians could lend a hand.
Wonderful.
In the beginning, they did not communicate well to coordinate action.
Hey, UK, we should attack that place over there.
What? No, they're one of our alliances, old chap.
What? No, they're not.
I thought they were. There is too much confusion going on here.
After the detonation of the atomic bomb, things soon changed. Since then, NATO has gained command bases and leaders for each sector of this organization.
I have called us here to discuss who and what our enemies are. Currently, we are running around willy-nilly, blowing up things. It's not working very well.
Hey, at least we're trying to do stuff.
And we should communicate more, discuss who's a threat and how to dispose of them.
I think we should start thinking about the threats of nuclear war as well.
Yes, we should.
So, by the way, for this moment, too, what do you guys do?
In early September 1949, a United States spy plane flying near the coast of Siberia picked up a trace of radioactivity. 3 months later, Klaus Fuchs was arrested for passing nuclear and hydrogen bomb information to the Soviet Union. He was a physicist who helped the United States build their bomb near the end of World War II. This action ended the supremacy of the United States' nuclear bombs and caused serious tension between the United States and the Soviet Union.
The overall objective of the plan was to create steel and coal production in France and East Germany. Robert Schuman, the founder of this plan, had different ideas like indirect tax, industrial regulation, agriculture, fisheries, and monetary policies. It was the basis for European Coal and Steel Community, or the ECSC.
Okay, guys, I'm going to institute a new plan on your countries.
Why?
Because the plan will help your countries flourish in the future and catch up with the United Kingdom.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
So this plan would help our economies?
Yes, it would advance your economies and help with getting out of dictation.
Plan funded by the United States allowed the European economy to be restored sooner than expected. Their infrastructure was restored and many people went back to work. Even though food shortages happened after the war, the government took steps to bring their nations back to prosperity.
The Soviet Union and 7 other European countries signed a treaty to allow the Soviets to be in charge of their armed forces. At the time, there was a sign of a threat from NATO. The Warsaw Pact was a result of their panic. The treaty protected an attack from the outside forces. There had been tensions between the Warsaw Pact and NATO because they thought that new wars in each country's national security was threatened. Since then, there have been countries kicked out, and in 1991, the last meeting of the Warsaw Pact was held.
Hello, I'm going to be in charge of your military forces. You will all sign a pact with us saying that we, the Russians, have control over you guys.
Why did we let you do such a thing?
Well, in return, we will offer you protection from outside forces.
I'll join.
The Nordics do not wish to RV join.
You know Russia will make you bow.
Eh.
Yugoslavia will join.
So will Germany.
My turn.
This was a meeting of the Big Four: President Eisenhower, Prime Minister Anthony Eden, Premier Nikolai Bulganin, and Prime Minister Edgar Faure. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss peace. Other topics were arms negotiation, trade barriers, diplomacy, and nuclear warfare.
Hello.
Morning.
Enough with chit-chat! We are here to discuss our trade and barriers. Soviet Union want to continue moving west.
We will not stand for that. You have more than enough land.
Peace. Keep the peace.
Right, sorry.
Yes, about that. If you want to continue moving west, you'll have to take up land owned by the US and the UK. And we'd rather not have that happen.
Your point?
I think that Eisenhower and Eden are trying to say is they don't want to give up their trading territory.
Anyways, there's a lot of tension on the borders. Men will be willing to strike at anything.
Well, right.
Well, there's also the threat of nuclear war. However, that is more between the US and...
Yes, well, the US won't attack Russia if they don't attack us.
Same for Mother Russia.
Someday, I bet someone will write a silly story about them. It will be about butter. Oh, how silly it is.
Oh, I would love it if that would actually happen.
The citizens of Hungary started a revolt against the government, mostly because of the Soviet control in their country. At first, this started as a student demonstration, but news spread, and violence began to consume the cities. Many organized militia and worker councils competed and demanded for power in Hungary. In 1956, a large number of Soviet forces invaded Budapest and nearby regions. Many were either killed or wounded, with thousands fleeing to bordering countries. A new government was formed which strengthened the Soviet control over Europe. Even though the uprising failed, it played a role in the fall of the Soviet Union years later.
In the middle of the night, the communist government of East Germany began to build a wall to split both sides. The purpose of the wall was to keep out Westerners because their government was democratic, while East Germany was full of communism. The wall stopped all refugees from crossing both ways, and East Germany reinforced the wall, making it harder for citizens to cross the border. The death strip was made out of sand that was lit by lights and left footprints. There were also tripwire machine guns, vicious dogs, and patrolling soldiers with armed guns. This wall separated many families and friends from each other, and even had a negative effect on the economy, employment, and food production.
This man was a dictator that rose to power in Romania. He murdered thousands of people and outlawed abortion and birth control, which led to thousands of children abandoned by their families. The orphans did not have a proper education and couldn't work, which contributed to a bad economy.
This was a brief time when the government of Czechoslovakia was being run by Alexander Dubček. He introduced a democratic system and lessened the Soviet Union's power on their nation's affairs. Alexander tried to improve the economy and make the people's lives better and more efficient. For example, farmers were given the right to form their own cooperatives instead of taking orders from the government. Eventually, the reforms of Dubček were abandoned and he was arrested and sent to Moscow, Russia. Everything that Alexander had accomplished was reversed and he was later removed from office.
This is an international organization created by the Treaty of Rome in 1957. The main goal of this group was to bring economic unity between European countries. Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and West Germany were part of the founding members. Each member of this alliance did not have to pay tax on imported goods from other country members.
The Iron Lady became a Conservative Member of Parliament for North London in 1959. She served many roles in government, but in 1974, Margaret Thatcher became the first female Prime Minister of England. Her policies reduced inflation, but unemployment increased during her years in power. Thatcher suffered near-death experiences, but still pushed forward to a third-term election. But after many controversial policies and the split of the Conservative Party, she agreed to resign from office. Even though she wasn't a part of government, Margaret was appointed to the House of Lords, which allowed her to preach political and economic freedom. The suffering of multiple strokes forced her to retire from public speaking, and in April of 2013, Margaret Thatcher died from a stroke at the age of 87.
This was a republic made into a socialist state after the Axis powers were defeated in World War II. Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, Serbia, and Slovenia were the 6 countries that made up this state.
All was good until 1992, when nationalism was replaced with communism. Many groups started ethnic cleansing, which forced Muslim citizens living in the area to return back to their homeland. A year later, the Bosnian Muslim government were forced to give up on power in their capital, Sarajevo. The Americans first pressured them to end the war, but NATO was responsible for enforcing a peace agreement between both sides in Yugoslavia. Years later, in 1998, Kosovo Liberation Army rebelled against the existing government, which brought an attack on the country by NATO. This attack ended the crisis and was the first attack the alliance had ever had in their existence. More uprising and disagreements led to the end of Yugoslavia after 83 years.
After Hungary opened their border against Austria, many East Germans began to flee to the West German embassy. Protests and demonstrations began to grow after Egon Krenz, East German leader, said that the wall will stand for 50 to 100 more years. Citizens demanded to be free as they flooded near the checkpoints at the Berlin Wall. After their persistence, on November 9, 1989, there were plans to break down the wall. People were united with their friends and family and even chipped a piece off of the wall for themselves.
The wall will last a long time. The wall will last a long time.
Political unrest and establishments of military and communist group led to the end of the USSR. All republics became independent nations, and Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev resigned from office, who was replaced by Boris Yeltsin. The end of the USSR ended the Cold War. Many countries are still close to Russia and have even formed alliances together.
Emra, and you guys feel sad. No, the orphans feel sad.
So, great. Brett.
Give the peasants food. Will, peasants, food.
Oh, yeah. Have a food. Have a food.
We should like totally revolt because that would be like really cool, and we can murder all sorts of people.
Toast
That
my
would just be
goat.
amazing.
That sounds fun. I love murder.
I love genocide. I mean,
Genocide?
What?
Yeah. Genocide. Right?
Yes.